From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Welcome back to our podcast. This is DNC week in Chicago. I was going to wear my Harry Truman shirt, but my wife vetoed that. So I'm wearing my Irritating Liberals shirt because it's kind of what we do here. I am Dale Carter. He's Kurt Wheeler. And we want to thank Bob Watson for being part of the podcast. He is my personal State Farm agent, yet I will share him with you for everything that is important to you in your life to ensure. Bob Watson's been doing that for 50 years in Blue Springs, a State Farm agent who works both Missouri and Kansas. 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life. Bundle home and car insurance and save big. If you're sold on State Farm as the brand, Bob and his team are ready to go to work for you. It's 7th and Main in Blue Springs. Again, the number, 816-229-7878. Do you realize, Kurt, that as we record this, it's going to populate on Wednesday. As of today, Tuesday, we are 11 weeks away from Election Day.
It's crazy.
It's going to go fast.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like the last 4 years have gone fast. You know, we started this podcast when Biden was inaugurated, and here we are at the next go-around. So,
and I'm going to get into this a little bit later on, but we have documented his decline. Right? We've talked about it. Go back to the episodes. We would play clips from Joe Biden and say, this is the best Joe Biden you're going to get. And it's gone down, 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 while, you know, those in power on the Democrat side lied their asses off about it and covered it up until it was really too late to do anything but pass the baton to Kamala Harris without any sort of a primary. So with no votes at all, she is now the Democrat nominee who will accept that nomination on Thursday night in Chicago. We're going to get into all of that with what's happening at the convention and some other fun stuff along the way as well. We welcome in sponsor Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs. It's interesting because Dale's Body Shop and Bob Watson State Farm kind of work hand in hand. And they've worked well for me over the years because Bob Watson has carried the insurance on all of my vehicles, and Dale's Body Shop has put them back together when I wrecked them. It works that way. Dale's Body Shop serving the greater Kansas City area since 1987. There are no shortcuts. He's in it to keep you safe. So when you wreck your car, have you had a wreck before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, what happens is they ask you, you know, if it's worth saving, where do you want us to take this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, say Dale's Body Shop, because everybody in the Kansas City Metro knows about Dale's Body Shop. He'll fix it, and it'll be back restored just like new. All right? Dale's Body Shop, taking care of customers, taking care of you. So the DNC is in Chicago. I don't know who made that decision to go to Chicago, because it has a history, right? 1968 was really, really bad in Chicago. And you've already got groups out there that don't like what's happening with what's going on in Israel. And I know the Biden administration is trying really hard to thread that needle. You know, they're trying to say, hey, we support Israel. All you Jews out there, vote for us because we support Israel. But the people who don't like what's going on over there, people who support Hamas and the terrorists, you know, on the other side of it, they're saying, okay, Netanyahu, you can fight this war, but you gotta do it more surgically. You can't go in there with both feet like we did in World War II. You can't do that. Now you've got, and the consequence of that, Kurt, is this thing has dragged on. If we'd taken the gloves off and told Israel, go do what you need to do, this thing would be over by now.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah. I mean, they're bombing the crap out of them. So if that's the case, then it would have been over. Because they've been, you know, indiscriminately bombing the entire area.
Well, Chicago, which used to be my favorite city in the world, I was a diehard Cub fan since the time I was 9 years old. I loved nothing more than to go to Chicago and see the museums and go see the Cubs play at Wrigley and then, you know, eat at my favorite restaurant. And then living in Kansas City the last 30 years, jump on a Southwest flight, you know, on the south side of town, and you're home in an hour. But I don't think I'd go anywhere near Chicago right now. Businesses in the downtown area, you know, down Michigan Avenue and State Street, they boarded up everything, and they're bracing themselves. And you're showing video there of some Chicago police officers that are lining the streets. I have word from the inside that a bunch of Chicago officers called in sick for this entire week. It's a no-win situation, right?
Right.
You bust heads like they did back in the Daley days when he was the mayor of Chicago, and you're probably going to lose your job and or go to jail.
Yeah. There's been some interesting video, that's come out of this. You mentioned some of the businesses being boarded up, and there's kind of an interesting contrast here that I'll show
the
here.
Democratic National.
This is I believe, the governor.
Yep.
And so this is what he has to say about it. Let's see.
The Democratic National Convention is coming to Chicago, and I keep hearing from business owners and workers alike how much they're looking forward to welcoming our visitors. Hi.
Hi.
I'm JB.
I'm Ellen. Welcome to Sam Meyer's Bookstore. I'm so excited to have everyone come for the convention. In Chicago, we really love our visitors, and I'm looking forward to meeting so many new people and sharing our beautiful city with them.
Chicago knows a thing or two about throwing a party. At the Dawson and all around, we share that feeling.
So you get the vibe there. I mean,
right,
it's like
sure.
very happy, bubbly,
warm and welcoming,
warm
and all
welcoming.
that. Yeah.
And then here's the reality on the ground. This is one of the local reporters that is reporting on some of the businesses being boarded up.
Front of the Garland building is covered in plywood. It's basically covering the windows and the door, and that's to be able to protect the building, and I should say the entrance of the building, from any potential unrest that could happen ahead of the, once the DNC does come around here, since we are anticipating some protests to take place. Now, the Chicago Board of Services says their crews have been busy the last few days boarding up businesses to get ahead of potential damages. Now, so far, they've secured 12 locations around the West Loop, downtown, and Daley Plaza area, with plans to board up additional businesses this weekend as a preventative measure if protests related to the DNC erupt in front of.
It's interesting to me, the language that they use. They have to try and sugarcoat everything because it's left-wing protesters. So they're not going to say,
bunch of
violent
thugs,
rioters and lawless people on the street. They reserve that kind of language for Trump supporters.
Right.
But so it's like, we're just anticipating a little bit of civil unrest, and we're just taking preventative measures. It's like you're boarding up businesses because these people are unhinged.
There's over 200 groups that are protesting the DNC. In fact, we should have video of one of them grabbing a microphone on stage.
Yes, this was a couple days ago. So I think this was like
a pre-event.
Yeah, it was like some kind of I don't know if it was a test event or something like that, a presser maybe. But here's what that looked like.
Y'all can do better than that. Mike DeMoney.
150,000 people are dead. You are funding a genocide. The Harris-Biden administration keeps spending money to Israel.
Don't get too heavy-handed with her there. I think we should send her over to Gaza or some other Islamic country and see how well she did there.
Yep. A lot of red flags there. Obviously, the mask, the short hair, kind of gives it away.
I don't think she'd do well over there with the Hamas folks, even though she's protesting in favor of Hamas. Biden last night in his speech, this is kind of a funny aside here. I was talking to some of our friends who work here at Steel City in the sales department, right? And they were like, they stayed up late to watch Joe last night, and one of them had tears in her eyes.
Oh, no.
I know. I just wanted to puke. I mean, frankly, I couldn't even watch the Republican convention. There's no way I'd watch the Democrat convention. And Joe even threw them a bone last night, and he said, they may have a point. Some of those protesters might have a point.
Oh, really?
Oh, you got some clips of Joey?
This is just I didn't pre-screen any of these.
Yeah. So, what I heard was it was like Angry White Man going well into the night there. Tough to be Joe. He had to go there. He thought he was going to go there on Thursday and accept the nomination. A month ago, the Democrats finally got on the same page with us that there was no way that he could run and serve another 4 years. So they pulled the plug on him. They did exactly what the Republicans did to Richard Nixon in 1974. They went to the White House and they said, you got to go. But he didn't go. He's still the president for like 5 more months.
I think this is maybe the clip.
From the heartland of America.
Wrong button. God. Sorry.
Don't push the wrong button. That's what I do on the morning show every day.
I know. Here we go.
The brave service members who gave their lives to this country. He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is?
I'm angry Joe Biden. Yeah, who does he think he is?
You are fake news.
Yeah. Well, you can stop that clip right there because that takes me somewhere else. CNN actually was fact-checking Joe Biden's speech last night, and they didn't even mention that. That is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
And the Democrats have told that lie over and over and over again. There's the other lie that there were in Charlottesville that there were good people on both sides.
He called Nazis very fine people.
Yeah, he didn't say that. I'm surprised Joe didn't say anything about, inserting yourself with bleach because that's another one of their favorite lies.
Yeah. We've had that in our comments section.
Yeah.
They just come on, people.
Exactly. It's lie after lie after lie. So Joe is going away. I'm skipping around here because Maureen Dowd, who's a liberal columnist for the New York Times, she was the first Democrat to use the term coup to describe how Joey was sidelined. And you've got one from Chris Coons, who was the national co-chair for Biden-Harris 2024, liberal senator from Delaware. And I didn't see this clip, but you say watch it till the very end.
Yeah.
Push you out. Here's how Maureen Dowd put it. She said, quote, even though it was the right thing to do, because Joe Biden was not going to be able to campaign, much less serve as president for another 4 years, in a fully vital way, it was a jaw-dropping putsch. She basically says a coup is still a coup. Essentially, I don't want to say this was a coup because nobody actually marched up to him with a spear in hand and said, get off the throne.
That is literally ridiculous.
Well, you could tell that to Maureen Dowd because those are the words that she used. But Senator, he was pushed out. There's no denying that.
John, this was the president's decision. He and he alone had to make that decision one way or the other. And as I said to him, as we were talking through that period, I intended to stay by his side every step of the way, as did all the folks who I work closely with as his campaign co-chairs and lifelong supporters. The president looked at the polls, he listened to friends and colleagues, and he made the decision to step aside. And it was selfless, and it is a remarkable act of leadership. I'll remind you that 2 weeks before, hang on a minute, if we're going to talk about attempted putschs, 2 weeks before President Biden gave his inaugural speech, an angry mob stormed the Capitol. I was there in an attempt at stopping the peaceful transition of power. That's the one attempted coup that's happened in my lifetime, not persuading Joe Biden to step aside in favor of his trusted vice president.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that at the end?
His trusted vice president?
No. He said... So he obviously brings up January 6th.
Well, yeah, of course.
He spends the whole time saying, no, it was Joe Biden's decision. Mm-hmm. He's the big man. He's making, this decision completely on his own. And then he says at the end that January 6th was the real coup, not persuading Joe Biden to step aside. He uses the word persuading at the very end. So he kind of gives up the game there by saying, yeah, they persuaded him to get out. We've seen the reports that it was basically an ultimatum from Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others that, they were going to
25th Amendment
or we're going to, pull out the 25th Amendment. So he kind of gives a little, shows his hand a little bit there at the end. I think that was an accident on his part.
In Stalinist Russia, they gave people a decision too. They would leave them in a room with like a loaded pistol next to a table and say, it's your call. It's your decision. I don't think any thinking person believes that this was Joe Biden's decision. And, getting back to the emotion of the whole thing with people crying over poor Joe and he's leaving, and it was such an emotional moment. I had a friend who put something up on Facebook about, voting for Trump, and this person goes, I can't believe you'd vote for Trump. And then this person lists like thing after thing after thing that was better during the Trump years than it's been during the Biden years, and this person didn't respond. And so I responded. I said, they hate facts. It's all about their feelings. They can't stand the facts. And the facts are not on their side. And, if you're going to vote for Kamala Harris, you got to believe that one of two things is true, right? Either it was really bad under Joe and she didn't have anything to do with it, and now it's going to be a whole lot better, or we're living in the best times ever and we need to keep it going. Those are the only two answers that you can really come out of there with, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
No, I mean, we have, we're going to be getting to this in a little bit, but it's all about personality, and she's the first woman, she's the first black woman, blah, blah, blah. And, even if you ask her, you can't, she or her campaign can't really point to anything concrete as to why she should be president. So it's all emotionally driven, like you said.
Well, hold off on that because I want something I skipped over and I want to get back to, and that's that the president of Columbia University has resigned. The turmoil took a toll on her family. She just couldn't handle the turmoil. And maybe not. I mean, if you can't handle what happened at Columbia, you need to resign. Because the template for that happened down in Florida with Ron DeSantis. DeSantis said, hey, if you do any of this stuff, if you cross the line where the First Amendment ends and thuggery begins, you will be expelled from these schools and prosecuted. Why couldn't she have done that? You have a First Amendment right to protest, but when you start, destroying property and intimidating people, I mean, the Jewish students at Columbia, I mean, how much they have felt, right? Going to class, just trying to do what they do. And they were allowed to be intimidated by these thugs on the other side. Why don't you have, well, of course, she's a woman, so I guess it would be sexist and misogynist of me to say, why don't you have a pair of balls and stand up to these people?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what DeSantis did down in Florida. So if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Put somebody in there who will do something.
So what was I'm not totally familiar with the story, and just for anyone watching that is also not, she resigned because of backlash over inaction against rioters?
She just couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, the turmoil of all of the unrest, at Columbia University just took a toll on her family. So, she had to get out of there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely don't envy being in that position, but they get paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, so I'm sure it's not
Indeed.
that bad.
And in 1968, I hinted at this, the last time the Democrats were in Chicago, I think it was the last time they were in Chicago, certainly the most infamous time that they were in Chicago. 1968 happened. Robert F. Kennedy had been assassinated. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated. We were hip deep in Vietnam. Lyndon Johnson decided he wasn't going to accept his party's nomination for president because he saw Bobby Kennedy coming at him and he said he didn't have a chance. And then Bobby got assassinated, but it was too late because Lyndon already said he wasn't going to be there. So that's what Mayor Richard Daley, the first Mayor Richard Daley, had to deal with in Chicago in 1968. And back when Democrats were like real men and would take, matters by the balls and do something about it, Daley sent his people out there to crack heads.
Here's what he said.
I said to him very emphatically and very definitely that an order be issued immediately under his signature to shoot to kill any arsonist or anyone with a Molotov cocktail in their hand in Chicago, to fire a building because they're potential murderers, and to issue a police order to shoot, to maim, or cripple anyone looting any stores in our city. And above all, the crime of arson is to me the most hideous and worst crime of any, and should be dealt with in this fashion. I was disappointed to know that every policeman out on the beat was supposed to use his own decision. And this decision evidently was his. In my opinion, he should have had instructions to shoot arsonists and to shoot looters.
What do you think George Soros would think about that? Right?
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to pay his people a whole lot more to go out and protest because they'd be in physical threat.
Yeah.
So
Jean Peters Baker, closer to home. I mean, how would she deal with that as prosecutor of Jackson County when the mayor says, a Democrat mayor, by the way, not a Republican, although he might be a Republican today. He's like, we're not going to put up with this shit. Shoot to kill.
Yeah.
And guess what? That tamped it down quite a bit. You didn't have already at the DNC. We've seen this. They've gotten past the first perimeter and they got to within, one fence of being in the United Center to disrupt what was going on in the DNC. And again, a lot of cops have called in sick. They don't want to be there. Pritzker's got the Illinois National Guard on standby. I'm not sure if they've been utilized yet, but they're there. And throughout all of this, we still have no press conference from Kamala Harris. Everything has been scripted.
Yeah. Yeah, she's given those big speeches with Megan Thee Stallion, and I think there was one with Bon Iver, another music artist, and other things. And she is filling up arenas. She's getting people out, but she hasn't done anything really unscripted. There was one question that I found. This is the only example I could find of her actually taking a question.
Okay.
And it was, it looks like she's backstage at an event or something like that. Or I guess getting into a car, maybe coming out of an event. But here's the one question that I was able to find her taking and what she had to say.
You unveiled your some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself.
So I'm just sitting here with my mouth hanging open here. So she's all for trickle down then, right?
Well, she's talking about return on investment for child tax credit, which is a very specific thing. But I mean, I will say, at least it's an answer.
That's true.
She's clearly getting coached, I think, by people, that are running her campaign or the DNC or other people that are in her camp that want to see her win, because she's not taking questions, really. She's not giving press conferences. But in that specific case, she actually gave at least an answer. You can criticize it. You can say, well, you're talking about one specific policy, that's going to help people out a little bit, maybe. But like, you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars in spending. So where does that come from?
Exactly.
But yeah, at least it's an answer.
Okay. I mean, because here we are, it's the same math problem. We're still increasing, the debt. 35 trillion, we've blown past 35 trillion. Every 100 days under this administration, we're adding another $1 trillion. We spend 2 trillion more than we take in. Trillion's a big number, by the way. And, in another interview, she said she's going to let the Trump tax cuts lapse. She's going to go after businesses again. And Democrats and liberals never see the end result. They only see, my gosh, we're going after the rich people. We're going after businesses. They don't see 3 jumps ahead. They're playing checkers, not chess. So when you tax businesses at the confiscatory level that she wants to return to, what does that affect? What's the impact on, regular everyday going to work kind of folks? What's the impact on consumers when prices go up, jobs go away, salaries go down? That is the negative spiral, the negative downward spiral that we see in the economy. The best thing that she could do is what Trump would do, and that is help the economy, because when the economy flourishes, everybody wins. You can't pick winners and losers and say, okay, we're going to take from these rich people and we're going to increase the child tax credit.
Right.
It lowers the incentive for being part of what it is we're trying to build here. When you lower taxes on businesses, the big businesses, right, those savings come right back to us. When you increase the taxes on businesses, they raise prices. They eliminate jobs. This is not hard stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the child tax credit thing is interesting. I'm in favor of anything that incentivizes families and incentivizes having kids. And that's one way to do it, but it's not really solving the problem, right? It's not. It's sort of a just a subsidiary thing that you can do, like, and it also kind of, as with everything else that we've talked about, it like bastardizes taxes, like the definition of taxes. It's like, oh, we're doing you a favor by letting you have some of your money back. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very backwards how we talk about taxes.
And
it's like it belongs to the government, and then they're doing you a favor by letting you keep some of it.
And the earned income tax credit, in some cases, a lot of cases, people I know, they get back more than they paid in.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that works.
Yeah.
That's your government at work. And again, we get way off base of the tax code should be in place to pay for the government, not social engineering, right? What does the government cost us, and how are we going to pay for it? They don't look at it that way. They look at it at, how can we solve socioeconomic problems? Well, we're going to rob from the rich and put it through the big blender here in D.C., and we're going to shoot out money here. We're going to shoot out money there. And you know what? The investment down the road is going to pay off, and that's why we should do it. Would you run a business like that? This is why, somebody said on The Five the other day, the liberal that they have sitting in, oh, I don't want a guy who started out as a millionaire and became a billionaire. I'd rather have the woman who worked her way up by working at Burger King. And the other guy who has never had a real job in his life. That's what I want.
Is that really how she worked her way up?
Oh, well.
Can we just be honest for a second?
You know what?
I don't have to say it, but you know what I mean.
She might win. And you know what? Then the IRS would be on our ass.
Yeah.
So, because they've already proved that they will use lawfare to go after their enemies. They're doing that with Trump right now. So I'm not going to get into all that. But I will say this, that you've got a guy in Trump who built something and made it even bigger. Okay, and we have 4 years of a record of him being president. Now, what they'd like to point to is the last year when he was hit with a pandemic. Why is it we get Republicans in there who are doing good public policy only to have some huge event happen to derail them? And I'll point back to George W. Bush. I thought he was doing a good job. And then all of a sudden 9/11 happens. And then his focus becomes going after terrorists and going into Iraq at a point when maybe we shouldn't have gone into Iraq. Hindsight being 2020, maybe we shouldn't have gone into Iraq. Okay, so now you've got Trump sailing right along, and then we run into the COVID buzzsaw. And being the smart businessman that he is, he knew that our economy would go into a depression if we didn't have the PPP program. Our company benefited from that. It was basically an agreement from the government is, if you'll keep people employed, keep your doors open, and do certain things along the way here, you may not have to pay that loan back. That worked out well for this economy. It gave us that V recovery where when Trump left, he said his advice to Biden was don't do anything. It'll come back on his own. And what did Biden do? He took credit for all the jobs coming back.
Yeah, I mean, that's a similar thing where it's just a Band-Aid. It's not really solving the problem. What should have happened is the businesses shouldn't have been shut down in the first place. But
well, that's true. And again, in hindsight, that is true. That we shouldn't have done that.
But I wanted to go back to one thing that you said about Trump, too, about how people criticize him because he got $1 million or whatever it was from his daddy. He got $1 million from his daddy. Well, yeah, he was able to take that and turn it into a very successful business enterprise. But what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
What's wrong? Like, I would love to leave my kids $1 million. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, when did we, as a country, the American dream is being successful, leaving something for your kids, leaving a legacy. Like, what's the problem with that? If you're using it for nefarious purposes, then that's a different story, of course. But just the fact that you're able to leave something for your kids, I mean, we should be celebrating that, shouldn't we?
Well, that's the difference between conservatives and liberals. Conservatives reward success. Merit. I mean, that's important to us. Democrats look at that as something kind of shady. And again, that gets into the whole projection thing again. Because behind the scenes, what did Joe Biden do? Never had a real job, right? He lived off of the national tit for his entire life. How did he become a multi-millionaire? Think about it. Because behind the scenes, he's letting his office be used as an ATM machine through his son and his brother and all that. And, he gets in bed with the Ukrainians over there. Trump asks a question about it to a guy on a phone call. What do? They impeach him. right? So, you know, that's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So back to where we were. Where were we on all this?
We were on why vote for Kamala.
Oh, why Kamala? Okay. Yeah. If you can't have either of these answers, okay, these are the two answers you're not allowed to reply with. One, she's not Trump. Okay, that's one. And the other one, wouldn't it be so cool to have the first woman president who's also a woman of color? Now, without those two answers, why Kamala? That's my question.
It's a great question. I haven't heard a good answer. Other than, you know, people say, well, she was the attorney general. She was a prosecutor. And my follow-up question to that would be, okay, name one thing she did as attorney general of California.
Well, and all you have to say is California. Train wreck.
Right.
Right?
Right. But yeah, I found this interesting clip. You know, we love to shit on failed media figures, and Don Lemon is certainly one of them. He left or got fired from CNN, and now he has a failed podcast that, you know, his numbers have gone way down. Nobody is following him anymore. But he went out and did some street interviews. I have two that I could play if you want to watch both, but this one's in Pittsburgh, and there's some pro-Kamala people. So let's see what they have to say.
How you feeling about the election?
I'm not feeling good, I'll tell you that much.
What?
It's crazy times. A lot of divisiveness, too much divisiveness.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris is gonna win.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because she will be the first female president in the United States of America. It would be nice to have a girl to finally win.
Boys are, you know, they've had enough, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to Trump if you saw him?
You're gonna lose.
She's voting too, by the way.
You made your choice?
Yes.
You want to tell us?
No.
Have you made your choice?
Yes. I don't want to say it.
You want to say?
I'm from California. You probably guess who I am.
Yeah.
I'm scared for Trump to win. We need a woman in power.
It's really making you anxious?
Yes, stressed, very stressed.
It's got to be okay.
No matter who wins?
No matter who wins, it's got to be, because this is the best country on the planet.
The prospect of living under the Trump administration for the next 4 years is very frightening to me, so there's a lot at stake.
I'm very excited to see Kamala Harris on the ticket.
For real, for real?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's about time we not just have a woman represent the country, but a woman of color. She's
there it
gonna
is.
Represent, I think, a broader group of people than anybody else that we've ever seen.
And she's qualified, you believe?
Absolutely. If she wasn't, why would she have done so well as the Attorney General of California?
Name one thing she did as Attorney General of California. Seriously, that's my follow-up question. But you can see it's all, you know, Kamala has the feminist and the beta male and the 9-year-old girl vote on lock. So, you know, she's got that going for her.
That 9-year-old's probably going to find a way to vote. I'm just saying,
right.
It's probably going to happen.
But we don't have to play the other clip.
We don't.
But he did another one in Wildwood, New Jersey, and it was like all pro-Trump people. And it was right before he did that Pittsburgh one. So I'm thinking he probably had some selective editing there, because all the comments on his one in Wildwood were like, you got owned, you know, all these people. There was one guy that was like, what do you watch, CNN? It's like, this guy was on CNN. You know, it was pretty funny. But there's your pro-Kamala crowd.
All right. Royal Roofing and Solar. Let's go to them. Royal Roofing and Solar, the roof over my house. And they did some more roofs. I think it was in Cass County, and I put up pictures on the Facebook page of the podcast, which, by the way, is rocking and rolling. I put up a little cartoon, and you told me that had like almost 2 million.
1.7 million impressions.
1.7 million. This podcast is growing in leaps and bounds, and we thank you for that. Royal Roofing and Solar. They are in Cass County, but they serve the entire Kansas City metro area. They put the roof on my house. There's a good picture of several roofs that have gone up lately. They'll also do solar by Royal.com. Mike Dale is their solar expert, and I'm telling you, Evergy is about to raise rates. I think the number is 13.4% in January. You can turn your house into its own energy generation unit. And my friend Steve, who's on the Democrat side, we went to grade school together, and you know, his comment on there was, "Oh, look at you promoting solar." And I said, "Well, you know, cheap trumps politics with me. And if I could save money in my own house by doing that and pay for it over time, I'm a short timer in my house because I've got retirement on the horizon. But if you don't, this could make a lot of sense for you to recoup those costs and basically get credit bills from Evergy, or very low. Mike Dale told me he got a $3 bill from Evergy. Think about that.
And it's more than that too, from a conservative sort of sustainability angle. I've been thinking about this a lot recently as well. And we don't have solar panels on our house because we rent, but if you want to be independent of Evergy, if you want to be independent of the grid, because you never know. I mean, we have power outages all the time in our neighborhood, all the time.
Mine too, by the way.
And how are you going to back that up? Are you going to have a generator? Are you going to have a battery that you can charge with solar? Are you going to have solar plugged directly into your power? Your switchboard, whatever it's called. I'm drawing a blank, but this is a way to start moving towards independence, energy independence, true energy independence, and that's something that is very admirable that we should all be, moving towards. I think.
Well, we're going to have Mike on the podcast in the coming weeks, and we're going to talk about that energy that increased rate that Evergy is going to shove down our throats. I did tell Steve where we part company is I don't think you can run an entire economy on wind and solar. But if you can make your house a little more energy independent, there's nothing wrong with that. And my friends at Royal will take care of you on that. Give them a call, 816-540-7057. And then the other fact of life is none of us are getting any younger. 10,000 people a day turning 65 in this country. Most know little to nothing about Medicare. Medicare for all. That's what they want to shove down our throats. They can barely handle the 65 plus population in this country. Kirk Doris and Lori Hocker at Medicare Simplified KC can make Medicare understandable and simple for you. They've been at this for over a decade. Medicare is not a one-size-fits-all proposition. You've got options. Find out what they are. Medicare Simplified KC is the company, and it says it all. Get the answers and know your options. They're at 3600 South Nolan Road in Independence. Go to them, or they'll come to you. Set the appointment. There's no obligation at all here. 816-701-6661, and they are on the web at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. Well, you took a bullet for us in watching the entire Trump-Musk thing. My ADD kicks in, and I can't sit still for like 2 hours or something like that.
Well, that's the nice thing about listening to a podcast like this one, for example. You can find us on YouTube or Rumble for the video podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, audio only. The great thing about it is you can listen while you're driving. You can listen while you're doing the dishes. You can listen while you're eating. I like to listen over my lunch hour while I'm eating lunch. So you don't have to just sit down on the couch and space out to a podcast.
Well, I tasked you with finding some fun clips here, or some good clips from the exchange between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So show me what you got.
Yeah. So just a little preface here. There was apparently some kind of DDoS or technical, server attack or something that had happened. So the whole thing was delayed by like 40 minutes. But then once it started, they went for, I think, over 2 hours straight. As of like last week, I'm sure it's gone up since then. Elon had posted on Twitter and confirmed that there was over 1 billion total impressions of the event. So that counts people listening to it directly, people posting about it, and the impressions on those posts, but over 1 billion total. Here's one clip where Elon is talking about a government accountability board that I thought was kind of interesting.
The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening, and we'll end that quickly.
Well, I think a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
No, it's the debt.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's in.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that too is that Elon brings it up repeatedly throughout the interview and kind of presses him on it. With he's not like doing any gotcha questions or anything like that, but Elon is clearly concerned about government spending, which we are as well on this podcast, and it was refreshing to see him really press the issue. And I think at one point he even says, if we create this government efficiency commission or whatever he calls it, I'd love to help head it basically. And Trump's like, oh, that sounds great. We'll get you involved. So
yeah,
we'll see if they actually follow up on that. But that was a cool moment.
My big concern about Trump is that he doesn't take the debt as seriously as I would like him to take it.
Right.
He takes it more seriously than Kamala Harris does, but neither of them are really going to attack it. And we're going to keep attacking it. If Trump wins, I'm still going to be on this as we continue to watch the debt escalate.
100%. They started the interview by talking about the assassination attempt for maybe about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, just kind of the tone of the conversation, because a lot of people are used to seeing Trump in a formal interview for TV, or he's giving a speech at a rally and he's kind of very gung-ho, or he's very, he's like he's very performative in a lot of ways. But this was very much kind of scaled back and very personal, just basically a conversation about it. And he talks about the chart that he's credits with saving his life, and he says it was an act of God that he's still here today.
Saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this, maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide. That slide saved
your
life.
No, the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it had to be at that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. saved by illegal immigration.
The incredible thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would have been a very different story. It's very much, I say, an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Yeah.
So one clip that I did hear, and I heard both versions of it too, with Gary and Eric overnight with Red Eye Radio, a show that I highly recommend if you're up in the middle of the night, because they nail it every time. Dana Bash at CNN shamelessly lifting a comment between these two, Trump and Musk, on nuclear power / nuclear war. And they took it out of context because Musk and Trump were talking about nuclear power, which when we talk about power generation, that's a subject that's kind of off the table. It's like it either has to be all fossil fuels or it's got to be renewables like wind and solar. I'm an all-in kind of a guy. And across Europe, they're building nuclear reactors. We haven't built a nuclear reactor in this country in 35 years. Does that sound right? So they were talking about the potential for nuclear power. And they also in the conversation mentioned how Hiroshima and Nagasaki came back from the nuclear attack that we waged in 1945. And somehow Dana Bash pulled out cuts to make it seem like, that was no big deal.
I want to play one exchange that was kind of classic. Well, there were a lot of exchanges that were classic Donald Trump, but this one really stuck out to us.
And Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So it's really not something that So it's not as scary as people think, basically.
So nuclear war is not as scary as people think.
It's so crazy. It's like a 1.5-second clip. Like, does she know? I mean, has she heard the context of the conversation? Does she care? Do the people that watch CNN care? They just hear that 1.5 seconds and he's like, oh yeah, Trump thinks bombing is fantastic. You know that you heard the clip. You heard it straight from. Like, how stupid are these people?
So, do you have the other clip?
Yeah, I do.
In context,
it's a little long, so I'll just
Fantastic.
kind of
But to me,
skip
the-
like halfway through because it's 2 minutes and 50 seconds
Yeah.
long. You can listen to the full thing. You can find it easily on Twitter. But I'll skip to about a minute left, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
At the land again. You know, you realize it's pretty bad.
No,
but,
that's not true.
But you're right about it. It's amazing.
So actually, right there, just to preface that, Trump is saying that talking about what happened in Fukushima, and he's saying they said you couldn't go back for 2,000 years; it wouldn't be safe. Now Elon is saying that's not true. He's about to say I went there and ate food on TV to show that it was fine.
Right.
It's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, you know, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. And I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
Yeah, but you haven't
because
been
the danger
feeling
is
so
just-
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
It's
I'm
fine, you know. It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
Right.
it's
Well, that's
really
great.
not
That's
something that
That's great.
So it's not as scary as people think, basically. But,
Yeah.
So he's saying it's great that it's not as scary as people think. It's great that Nagasaki and Hiroshima have rebounded and are now rebuilt.
Yeah. So my vehicle that I drive, my Mazda, was built in one of those two cities. I can't remember which one, but it's stamped on the inside of the door. So you see what Dana Bash did there, or what a producer at CNN did, was pull it completely out of context. And Kamala Harris, the woman who has not had a press conference since the coup happened in the White House. Maybe she's done a one-off, answering one question here or there. You played one example of it, and I saw another one outside of an airplane. But she's definitely not going to go in front of a Tim Russert type who would basically say, this is what you said then, this is what you're saying now, which one is the right answer. So she won't do any of that, but she'll criticize Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they just put out a statement, and of course it came out, the statement was released like immediately after the Twitter space ended. So I'm sure that they had this pre-written and they just had it scheduled to post, when the thing was done. But it says, statement on Donald Trump's interview with Elon Musk. Donald Trump's extremism and dangerous Project 2025 agenda is a feature, not a glitch of his campaign, which was on full display for those unlucky enough to listen in tonight during whatever that was on X.com. Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Elon Musk and himself. Self-obsessed rich guys who will sell out the middle class and who cannot run a live stream in the year 2024. How embarrassing for them.
That's very embarrassing. It comes down to who do you trust to build the economy? Do you trust, are the answers in Washington, D.C., or are the answers out here in the country? And I think, and I'm going to go to my grave saying this, the answers are out in the country. We need a federal government for certain things. It has a cost to it. Let's figure out what that cost is, and let's pay the bill with taxes, right? Taxes that make sense. But the answers to our problems are not in Washington, D.C. They come out here. They're in Kansas City, right? They're in the middle of the country. Very common sense people who come up with the right answers. They're not in Washington, D.C. If you think they're in Washington, D.C., and if you think Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, people who have never had real jobs in the world other than Burger King for Kamala, Walz never had a real job. He's been on the public dole, just like Joe Biden, for his entire career. If you think they've got the answers, and it involves taking more money out of the private economy and swirling it through the blender that is in Washington, D.C., then you should vote for her, because that's where it's headed.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going the other way. And I'll tell you, when it comes to cancer, I'm definitely under the category of I want the best advice, right? And when it comes to colon cancer, the best advice I can give you is get the colonoscopy. If you're 45 or you know someone who just turned 45 and they haven't had one yet, they need to get it, because colon cancer is something if you catch early, they can treat it, right? In most cases, there won't even be polyps in there. That was the case with me. But if you do have polyps, that means the work parts for colon cancer are there. And if you leave it untreated, it will kill you. That's pretty simple, pretty stark. And Mark Taramina knows that, and that's why he's encouraging everybody to get their colonoscopy. 45 is the new 50. 50 used to be the number that we threw out there to make sure you get the colonoscopy. But we're seeing more and more cancer deaths out there. Cancer is everywhere. But this is one of those cancers, while it's deadly, if you catch it early, you can treat it. Mark Taramina at Midwest GI Health and Wellness. They're on the web at MidwestGIHealth.com. Set up your appointment today or set it up for someone you love. 816-836-2200 is the number. They can do the upper and the lower. You don't even need a referral from a doctor. And then you can live the rest of your life. And it's going to be beautiful weather in Kansas City. Why wouldn't you want to do just that? In fact, if you're going to stay here in the Midwest and you're looking for a new house, I got a guy for that too. His name is Michael Schroer, real estate pro with RE/MAX Heritage. You can find him on the phone at 816-783-5800. He's been at this for most of his life, 35 years of residential and commercial construction experience. He can get you the right home for your needs. Maybe you've shipped off your kids to college and you're going to downsize. I'm looking forward to doing that very soon. He can find that home for you, your forever home. Your home because, you're like Kurt and you want to have 15 kids. You're going to need a lot of bedrooms and a lot of bathrooms, my friend. He's a guy who can help you with that. You got land you want to build a dream home on, he can help you with that too. Licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Remember the name, Michael Schroer, SCHROER. Michael Schroer, 816-783-5800. Good guy. So, is the media turning?
Tremendous people.
Sorry, that was a little late.
And I say that because, again, last night during Joe Biden's speech and the other speeches at the DNC, CNN was running a fact checker. Now, they didn't fact check everything. I looked at the story. They didn't fact check things like Charlottesville, the Nazi comment. They didn't really fact check anything on Trump. They fact checked some things that he said about policy. But maybe they are turning. CNN's Scott Jennings basically called out Kamala, and they ran it on CNN. I was stunned.
And this is during their DNC coverage.
He's in the fight of his life. Independents are going to decide. They were with him. Now she's in the race. They're wavering. And the way to get them back is very clear. Hey, if you're mad about inflation, maybe we don't put the people back in charge who caused it. That's the message. Print it, frame it, hang it in the Louvre. That's all you got to do.
He did have a.
That's all you got to do. Know. People don't know because is she the liberal U.S. senator? Is she the person who ran for president on the most far-left platform even as far left as Bernie Sanders? Is she the vice president who tried to handle some issues with the border? Is she the person now who sends out unidentified spokespeople to walk back all of her previous positions? What we started to learn Friday is that she's the person who wants to institute all kinds of interesting government price controls and massive upheaval in our free market economy. So people don't know, but they're going to have to learn. And the challenge for Trump, and that's why the polling is moving, is that he's got to define her before she defines herself as something that she obviously is, which is a radical Democrat. He can beat radical Democrat. Generic Democrat, it's close. Radical Democrat, he's in the game.
Yeah. So, and that's very true. And I would say also, and Nikki Haley, was on Trump's ass. And again, I've been on Trump's ass. If you have those people in the middle who are going to decide this race in about 6 swing states. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So those people who are in the middle in 6 swing states that are going to decide this election, do you think they want to hear Trump talk about all of his woes and how the government has come after him and blah, 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 blah? I mean, he's got the red meat people. He's got the people who go to the rallies. But I want him to talk to those people in the middle in those swing states and say something that's true about when he was president versus the last 4 years. That's all I want to hear.
This is anecdotal, but I was in suburban Philadelphia and New Jersey this past weekend, just over the weekend, and there were Trump flags, Trump signs everywhere. Good. And, the enthusiasm for Trump is clearly higher than for Kamala. I don't think people are really putting out Kamala signs. They're just voting for her because she's not Trump. But, we went to the shore. We went to Ocean City, New Jersey. And they have like T-shirt shops and everything, and they were all selling Trump merch, and the mugshot shirts and the fist up fight shirts, and the enthusiasm is clearly through the roof, and Pennsylvania is huge. You know, I think that's part of it.
It's one of the swing states.
Yeah, everyone's kind of, you know, showing their support for the former president because it is such a big deal. And Bucks County in particular is one of the swing counties in the swing state of Pennsylvania. It's a very important place in America for the election. And also, like the TV commercials, we were watching local TV, you know, the news and stuff. And every other commercial was either a Kamala commercial or a Trump commercial or something, some kind of super PAC. I mean, they're just getting bombarded constantly.
Yeah. So Jennings touched on this, CNN and the Washington Post. I mean, you would say probably a couple of liberal outlets, right? They both trashed her government price fixing scheme. She went out there. This was her big speech on the economy. And her big speech on the economy was Big Brother, the federal government, is going to set prices. We tried this once. Richard Nixon tried it, right? With a bad economy, he tried wage and price controls, and it failed miserably. I mean, we have textbooks on this. I mean, I don't think she's probably ever read them. And so she just goes out there. Oh, you've got the clip. I hope the clip contains her hand signals and saying, "We can do this. We can do this."
This is the CNN article. I'm not sure if this is the right clip or not. Right. I just pulled up the article.
Well, that's definitely the speech.
It's an ad. So we're going to
We don't like ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what she said. She goes, we're going to do all this, and we can do this. And, of course, those sycophants behind her, they're like, It's almost like the Obama money. Remember that video from Detroit? Why are you here? To get some money. What kind of money? Obama money. Where's he getting it? I don't know. From his stash. I mean, I have that clip and I play it on the air and people get mad at me when I do it. But it's true. I mean, that clip actually happened.
Let me see if I can find it on the fly here.
So wasn't this the same Kamala Harris, by the way, who was out there touting Bidenomics and how great Bidenomics was? And now she's like running. It's almost like, Kurt, it's almost like she's the tofu candidate. Because if you love the Biden policies, she was the last person in the room with Joe Biden when every decision was made. The last person in the room. If you can't stand the Biden policies, she's out there running like Trump.
Yeah.
She might as well have a MAGA hat on.
This was a great clip that was posted by Don Jr. Whoever edited this together did a great job, but here's what that looks like.
Bidenomics is working.
Meanwhile, most renters feel like they will never be able to own a home.
The typical starter home is now worth more than $1 million. For many buyers, that means achieving the American dream of owning a home is increasingly difficult, if not impossible.
And Bidenomics is working.
Listen to this stat. Since 2020, food prices have increased 26%, and we are all feeling it when we go grocery shopping.
Bidenomics, it's working. It's a term we're very proud of, I must tell you.
Gas prices are on the climb across the U.S.
Prices are nowhere near the levels they were at in 2020.
And Bidenomics is working.
So if you get 3 consecutive monthly readings on job gains that are less than 125,000, I'm beginning to smell a recession.
Bidenomics is working.
It's working.
Yeah.
So is that their spot? I love it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the laughing in the background, the editing, the cuts, the audio, it's all really well done. Yeah. Shout out to whoever edited that. Nice job.
Well, we were giving the media some kudos, both CNN and the Washington Post, but we still have Time magazine. I want to contrast their cover on Trump and the one on Kamala. Have you seen the Trump one where it's like his face is melting? That's the one. Yeah. That's the one that I saw contrasted with the one for Kamala now running for president, where it says it's her time.
Yeah, I put the wrong link in there.
So. Oh, that whole wrong link thing. I've heard that before.
Yeah, I'll find it. Keep talking.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Here it is.
Yeah. So you got, that's the Trump one. This is why you need to watch the video, because you see basically that he's melting, and it even says meltdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was like a whole series too that they had. There was another one that said like melted down or something like that. There was a bunch of different covers, and then this is the newest Kamala Harris cover.
Oh, yeah, they're in the bag for Kamala. It's her moment, not her time, her moment, because her time would be something different. I don't know if a woman her age still has her time, but it's her moment.
I didn't even think about that.
And, as she's, wistfully looking away, and I saw this, and my only thing was, the thing that's missing from it is a little audio component.
Yeah. The angelic noises.
So there you go. So Time Magazine still in the bag for Kamala Harris, no matter what she stands for.
I put this in the notes, but does anyone care about or read Time Magazine? Is it even still a thing?
No.
It's like the only time I hear about Time Magazine is when you're talking about who's on the cover or who's the Time Magazine Person of the Year. Other than that, it's like it doesn't matter at all. Nobody.
Well, it used to be Time Magazine Man of the Year, but that obviously went out the window. Now it's Person of the Year, and perhaps they're going to
What
get
happened to this once great country, man?
Yeah, they're going to eventually. It's going to be the Being of the Year.
Yeah,
and maybe it'll still be a sentient being. I'm not sure. So we can always count on MAGA Bob though for some fun takes. I put one up on the Facebook page, and he's got really good takes. You should follow him if you're not following him. It's MAGA Bob. But this is Kamala Harris filling up an electric car, complete with COVID outdoor mask, sold separately.
There is nothing.
Yeah.
And that's
so
all there
for
is
all of
to
us
it.
who are used to
Every morning
to filling our tank, you usually can smell it and you can hear it. You can hear the guzzling sound.
Right.
Yeah.
None of that.
None of
so
it.
how do I know it's actually working?
It is.
So, what I know of plug-in cars, and I don't have one and I don't have the desire to buy one, is you plug it in and you walk away. She's holding the thing like she's filling up a gas tank.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know that she's ever filled up a gas tank. And what's up with the COVID mask outdoors?
That clip is from 2021.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, even then.
No,
6 feet,
it's obviously stupid no matter what, but it's not like it was, I think there's been a resurgence of the clip. People are resurfacing it and posting it kind of out of context. Maybe some people are thinking that this just happened last week or something, but it's from 3 years ago. It doesn't make it any less dumb that she's wearing the mask outside.
Well, I can tell you this. The car manufacturers are having an oh shit moment that they bought into all this stuff, and Japan is kicking their ass. Germany's kicking their ass. And I think you're going to see gas-powered vehicles come back. And somebody who's going to be really in on that is my friend Jim Dingman, because he loves muscle cars. He does. It's one of his things. He is at Funhouse Pizza, 50 Highway in Lee Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs, proud sponsor of this podcast. So you should gather your family together. You want to have a little family reunion, somebody's birthday party, an anniversary, your team meeting for fall football, which is coming up here really quick. Do it at Funhouse Pizza, 50 Highway Lee Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. They pile those toppings so high. By the way, this is, as we're recording it, it's International Hawaiian Pizza Day. Kurt, are you a pineapple on the pizza kind of a guy?
I am not. But I'm also not a very many things on pizza. I like plain. I like pepperoni. I like occasionally sausage.
I'm with you.
That's about it.
That's it. That's all it needs to be. But Jim Dingman will make you whatever it is you want there. And the whole half and half thing on pizza, did you ever buy into that lie? My parents, they love mushrooms on pizza. And they would say, we'll just get it on our half and you boys can have the other half, right?
Right.
Invariably, a mushroom finds its way on the other side.
Yeah.
And with the pineapple pizza, it's the juice.
Right.
It'll just suck right into the rest of the pizza.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially with pepperoni, too. Pepperoni is like very greasy when you cook it. So there's no such thing as a half pepperoni pizza. You put pepperoni on one side, it gets the juice, and then the juice just goes to the other side of the pizza. So if you don't like pepperoni, don't get a half pepperoni pizza, because the plain side is just going to taste like pepperoni.
Personally, I get extra pepperonis and extra cheese, but that's how I roll.
Nice.
So Funhouse Pizza's got the best pizza in town. 50 Highway Lee Summit, 7 Highway Blue Springs. Tell Jim Dingman that we said hi when you go get a pizza. Can you buy insurance that you won't get like mushrooms on your pizza, or, pineapple I don't know. But if you could, Bob Watson would be your guy. Blue Springs local State Farm agent for 5 decades. That's 50 years. Just had his golden anniversary. as a State Farm agent, officed at 7th and Main in Blue Springs, but that doesn't mean anything. He's licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. He has a lot of clients on both sides of State Line Road: auto, home, and life, health insurance, pet insurance. Bundle your home and car insurance and save big, and know that there's a team behind you, that when you call 816-229-7878, Terry at the office is the one who's always taken care of me for the last 30 years. They've got folks there who will take care of you and solve your problem. Cut rate insurance is really great until you need it. That's why a lot of folks have State Farm, and a lot of folks in the Kansas City area trust my guy, Bob Watson. 816-229-7878.
Tremendous people.
I don't go to the movies very often. I did finally see Deadpool and Wolverine. Are you a Deadpool fan?
I don't know. I saw the first one, and it was just kind of like, it's one of those movies that seems like it's just vulgar and over the top just for the sake of it. You know, there's not really like substance there. I don't know. It was okay.
Well, I liked it. You know, that's why there are different strokes for different folks. And I like the second one a lot. I didn't get the one with Wolverine, and it gets really good reviews. I didn't get it. Maybe I don't know enough about the Wolverine universe, and there were a lot of inside jokes and all that. One movie that I am looking forward to seeing, and that is Dennis Quaid's portrayal of Ronald Reagan in the biopic Reagan, which is coming out on August 30th. Interestingly, it's being slowed down on Facebook, and in that world, they are referring to it as election interference, and I don't get that. Do you get that?
No, I mean,
if a Barack Obama movie came out, and they had the cover of Time magazine for Barack, and it was like, oh,
right.
We just want to go back to that again. Would you think that was election interference for Kamala?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, and the other thing is that every movie now is political. Everything that comes out of Hollywood has some sort of, left-wing agenda. It's either, super pro diversity, the white guy is stupid, or it's, feminist, or it's, some kind of Nazi thing where like they're making allusions to Trump or something like that. It's all propaganda. So if that's, if a biopic about Ronald Reagan is election interference, then every single freaking movie that comes out of Hollywood is election interference.
Yeah. Well, Dennis Quaid talked about it being referred to as election interference, and his thoughts on what I'm looking forward to, because it's a historical movie, and I love history.
We're kind of going through, with Reagan right now, the movie, we're going through we're being, censorship is happening to us through Facebook. Facebook banned advertising and a lot of the podcasts. This one will probably be banned on Facebook as well. That's over the last couple of months.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because is it a positive film about Reagan? Is that what the idea is that's bothering them?
It's I see it as it's a biopic is really what it is.
Yeah.
It follows him from when he was a boy in Dixon all the way through when he said goodbye to the American people, when he was diagnosed for Alzheimer's, after he was president. And it's a fight against communism, which he fought all of his life. But the reason being was that the content in it was an attempt to sway an election. A movie. I mean, the last time I heard, Reagan was on the ballot 40 years ago was the last time.
Do you think if you made a positive Obama movie, it would be to sway an election?
Well, there was an Obama movie that came out during an election year in 2020, and nothing about that.
Yeah, there you have it. Maybe the secret is that Reagan is like coming back from the grave, and he's secretly gonna, take over, run for re-election or something.
I'm not ashamed to say this. I loved Ronald Reagan, and I voted for him. First time I voted for president was when he ran the second time, and I have never been prouder to cast a ballot than I did for Ronald Reagan when he ran for a second term. So we're going to go against the grain here, and maybe this will get us held back a little bit. Maybe we won't get as many clicks, but I want to show the trailer for Dennis Quaid as Ronald Reagan.
Okay. Oh, there's an ad.
You could skip the
Keep talking.
Well, we're going to skip the ad. We're just going to move right past it.
2, 1.
And Reagan would be hard to capture, I would think. But I thought Quaid did a good job, at least so far in the trailer. I can't wait to see the movie.
There's nothing a retired governor can do, but a president.
Now he can do a thing or two.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
I will be frank with you that as a citizen, I would not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its ideology, because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it.
I was a brand new KGB officer, given my first intelligence assignment. A certain actor and union leader.
Dutch, there's a purpose for your life.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're gonna have to stand up to him.
It's my boy!
There's about to be another war right here in Hollywood. The commies on one side, the mob on the other. And you're right in the middle, son.
If you put as much work into your career as you do making your speeches, you'd have an Oscar by now.
Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan.
I'm curious, Ron.
What would you say is the issue of our time? No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union. Get in the game. Run for office.
It's you!
I'm running for governor, and I would like your vote.
I forgot your name.
Do his initials help, RR?
Honey, Roy Rogers is here! And he's running for governor!
Ronnie, remember when we met? You told me that you wanted to make a difference in this world. You know what you have to do.
Governor Reagan again, typically, is against such a proposal.
There you go again.
But he was not afraid to take us on.
There's nothing a retired governor can do about the Soviets, but a president.
Now he can do a thing or two.
Welcome.
There you go. That's rerunning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's the movie. Can't wait to see it when it comes out. And there was a little clip of Jimmy Carter from the debate that he had with Ronald Reagan. I think that's where Joe Biden's headed, to the scrap heap of Democrats who could only do one term and did a lot of damage. Nancy Pelosi might want to put him on Mount Rushmore, but I think it's time to move on and maybe move back to where we were 4 years ago under Donald Trump. So we'll keep talking about it. We are 11 weeks away from Election Day. It's going to be important about the future of this country. We continue to talk about it. Until next week, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.